Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us again for another episode here of Leadership Conversation. Today, it's a special session, actually, it's a special edition, and I'm here joined by a wonderful guest, Fredrik Hofflander. Welcome, Fredrik.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure to host you, and we're doing a little bit of an introduction. So we will love to hear your take on leadership, AI, innovation. That's what you do, but also to more or less introduce you to our audience as one of the speakers at our Live to Lead event that's coming up in about 2 weeks' time on October 23rd in Gothenburg. So if you are in Gothenburg and you haven't saved your seat already, we look forward to have you. Just go to live2lead.sc. But today we're gonna want to learn a bit more about Fredrik and what you do. So you've been working with AI for longer than any one of us. We are now used to AI, and AI is everywhere after ChatGPT being like just popularized. But tell us a bit about how did you end up, or how did you actually, what choices did you make to end in a not end, okay, to be in an industry and in a profession where you work with innovation and AI?
Yeah, I think it started with. I mean, when I started, AI was very tight coupled to autonomous robots. When you talked about AI in the beginning of this century, it was all about like moving things. So that's where it started for me, with actually with Lego robots in the beginning, and I was lucky to have a uncle who did a PhD in autonomous robots, and I got a hold on a lot of hardware actually. So that's where it started for me in gymnasiet in high school in Sweden, and I was hooked from the beginning, and then it became more and more of a professional thing. So I was lucky to be involved in like really early stage, like almost 20 years ago, with everything from mobile robots to recommendation motors online to self parking cars and so on. And this was my first like 10 years, and after that I decided that yeah, I really need to help people be able to do this, because I was really struggling to find fun things to do all the time. There were no, like, you couldn't uh, search for a data scientist role. Of course, there was data scientists like statisticians, but not within ML. So that was my argument to 10 years ago try to start up this. And I did that at A3, and after a while, I realized that it's not enough to just have like do this for one company. Uh, so my mission right now, and from 3 years ago, is to try to help every company, especially in Sweden and the Nordic countries, to become really data driven and work with this. And that's why, yeah, I started Egghead together with two colleagues 3 years ago.
Wow. So tell us a bit about Egghead and how do you help these companies? What kind of solutions or what kind of problem do you solve for them?
Yeah, so Egged, we're edge company within AI. We are consultants, but that also means that not only like expert as a professional service, but also helping companies in any way we can find. So sometimes it's a project, sometimes we just have an expert in place, sometimes it's a hybrid of that. So what we are striving to is not to have like one product that solves one problem, but to dig deep together with the companies. Everything from education to workshops, and the next step is like management consultant together with like C-level management, and create a plan moving forward. And then of course our core business is actually to implement and actually do the plan. So that's and to be able to do that, we have we took the decision to create a company where everyone in the company actually is an expert within this field. So about like 1/3 have a PhD. Like the most junior in the whole company has worked over 5 years as a data scientist. So everyone really is an expert. And we think that this is the way to go to start for companies. So of course, not all companies want to do this and understand how to do this. So that's often where we start to just explain why do you need this? Why do you need to be data driven? And we also strive to not like only push AI and especially Gen AI on all companies and say that this is the future, need to do this, but to actually have a more mature agenda where we teach of how to become actually data driven, not like Gen AI driven, which I don't believe really is suitable for most companies.
I think you're making such an important point there because I think as leaders today, they probably feel like the fear of missing out with all these AI productivity tools, all these things everyone talks about that, and questions like, do you have an AI agenda or do you have an AI strategy? And leaders struggle out. How do I answer that, and what does that even mean? Like, what's your view on that?
Yeah, my view is actually that AI, especially models and tools and such, that's like the easy part for most. I would say that the hard part is actually the data. So to having good data, that's hard work. And that's what brings you the real value in the long run. To use AI tools and to use models to predict and such. That's not the hard part in becoming data driven. And the important part to understand here is that if you say that you have an AI strategy, and that means that you use ChatGPT, you use Copilot and such, that's like not a strategy. That's like saying when when internet came and everyone got the computer, to say that we have a digital strategy because everyone in the company has a computer and we are on the internet. Of course, you have to have a computer and you have to be on the internet. That's non-discussable, and it's the same today. You have to use these tools; they are really, really good, but it's not a company strategy. So you won't get any further than today. You will just keep on working. But if you can become really data driven, you take decisions on data instead of just feelings. Um,
So
and yeah,
yes, I just
then
want to
then you yeah
jump in and help you or help us understand how help you unpack this and help us understand this a bit better because
yeah
I think also this data driven, it's also more or less a buzzword. It has started a couple of years ago. And so what does it really mean? Or like give us some example maybe that you helped companies with where they had data, they haven't used it. Like what would data driven mean in reality, like in
yeah.
practice?
So so data driven, it could be if you one really simple example that we work with is like you have this machine that creates stuff for you, and you have it in the factory, and like most companies don't work with predictive maintenance, and we know this. It's been a buzzword for long as well, but most companies don't work with that. So what they do is that they use this machine, and they have technicians that knows this machine very, very well. But when it breaks down, and they fix it, and then they move on. Having a data-driven approach on this is that you're actually measuring all the sensor in this machine. And you have something called like anomaly detection. That means that you find anomalies really, really quick. And you can see that, okay, this machine is falling down. Or you're also measuring for maintenance and saying that, okay, when we do maintenance for this component in the machine, it's soon time to change this other component, and then we can have a smaller window of downtime for the factory. And of course, it's really, really easy when you have like one machine, but most factories don't have that. They have a complete set of streamline and really, really complex logistics systems connected to everything from orders to transports to yeah, it's a complete chain of logistics. And since most company don't use predictive maintenance on in a one machine, it's not possible to have a really, really nice streamlined logistics system. But if you start to connect machines, you start to do analysis on each machine, and then you can do analysis and optimization on the whole system. And you can actually do this really, really, data driven instead of just reaction on events. And I think that's for many companies, that's about 10 to 100% more effective than what they have today. And for a construction, yeah, for an industry company, that means a lot of money each year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know for sure from working automotive, the cost of having a plant that it's stopped or like waiting for something to be repaired. But do you have an example of maybe organizations that are less physical? So let's say like even in a coaching and training or in a consultancy organization, what kind of data would we have available that we don't know it's actually data and we're not using it very well? And where would data driven and machine learning on top of that could help us, be better or be more effective or save costs?
Yeah, I would say that most companies actually they have customers in some sense. So and yeah, so hopefully, and but today we are not treating our sales or most companies don't treat their sales or marketing data driven either. So I mean, customers is really, really not easy, but we were able to predict behavior. Um, I think the best in the world are like Amazon, for example, and this, of course, you don't have to be Amazon, but just for to think about an example, most companies actually can do. Amazon, they are really, really good in predicting what you will buy and when you will buy it. So they have actually sent you the stuff before you order it, and that is true. Of course, not you as a person, but you in your local area. So they have packaged and sent out. So they have like a just-in-time delivery to on the customer side. Uh, and that means that in most part of the US, for example, you can actually order and get your delivery within 2 hours. And of course, no logistics system in the whole world can handle everything in 2 hours. It has to be on the way already. And when you think about that, you can think about your um, own process with your own customers. Can you, if you were able to predict what your customer wanted and when they want that, then most companies would absolutely be able to make a lot of use of that information. If you're a consultancy, of course, if you know how to call and when to call them to offer your offerings, that would help a lot. I know because I do a lot of phone calls. so and I wouldn't say that even us, we are not completely data driven there either. No company is, but if you do small changes all the time, you learn by your own historical data, your own mistakes, your own successes.
So
Of
where
course, it
is
could be a manual work, but
yeah.
yeah, you can automate a lot of that as well.
So then, where would then AI or machine learning come on top of that? So AI would help you make sense of the data, right? So as you gather data, AI would help you see patterns, or like how, what's the application of, machine learning then?
Yeah. So I would say that, of course, AI, or let's say deep learning, is like a part of machine learning, which is a part of what you would call like it's a statistical system, right? So our approach is often that if you have a lot of data, first take a classical statistical approach on that and see if it's enough. That's actually a mistake many do as well. They have a lot of data and they push it to a deep learning system, and of course you will get correlations, you will get results. But the problem there is that often when you do deep learning, you get the result, but you don't get the understanding. So uh, it's up. I mean, deep learning is great, especially when it comes to, for example, a large language model or really complex machine vision systems and such. But if you have like tabular data, you have time series and so on. I would say that uh, of the classical statistical functions is not only of the better, actually they do a better job than deep learning, because the data is not as complex as that you need deep learning, but you also get an understanding of what is happening with your data. You get an understanding of why do my customers behave like this, if and the next step is like classical machine learning. That could be a really small neural network, for example, like just really small things that you even can understand, or at least get some sense of. When we move up the ladder and go to deep learning, it's really hard to understand what is happening. Of course, that's needed sometimes. It's really hard to statistically describe how a cat look in a picture. Then you need deep learning, but I think it's absolutely overused. We use it a lot if we get complex problem, but we always try to solve things so you can understand what is happening.
Wow. So you say that we shouldn't jump directly to deep learning, machine learning, or like, these large language models before we understood a bit more our data.
No, absolutely not. And
Yeah.
and also, I also see that a lot of companies use large language model directly. They don't even use deep learning, but they actually push their data to a language model and ask that to analyze the data. And that, I would say, is the absolutely worst, because you will always get an answer, even if it's true or not. And a large language model is absolutely not made to do analysis. So large language model is great for many stuff, especially to transform from unsorted to sorted data, to transform from one format to another, to gather information. If you can get a good quotation from someone, but it's not an analysis system which it's used for today, and it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
A
it could be
lot.
really bad.
A lot. So tell us a bit about, what do you see? Like, technology is moving fast right now. What would be some trends or some things that leaders should be aware of that are now coming and maybe we don't see them, or is coming in the next couple of years that you can see already?
I think some parts are really important to understand, that uh, AI is absolutely on the level that it cannot work really good on its own when it comes to decision making. Um, AI is great as a tool, but if you have important decisions, always combine them with an expert. And this is still true for really like simple problems like chess. Playing chess, a human is, it's not possible to beat the best AI system. It's absolutely not. We are like useless on playing chess if we compare it to an AI. But if we combine an expert in chess together with an AI system, that combination still beats the best AI system, and that is true. So we even for simple problems like chess, if we compare to like management in the company, chess is really simple. Uh, Experts in chess still have like something to give to to the AI systems, and of course we will have that in decision making for companies and so expert will be really important for a long time, even if we have AI systems. The other thing I think is it's really important that you don't have an AI first approach. AI is still a tool. You should have value first approach on everything you do. And of course, that's like a cliche as well, but it's a really important thing because if you say that you will be AI first, you always think like prediction and how can we predict stuff instead of how can we optimize our business? How can we uh, a simple example is that it's a really big difference if you set a goal to predict how much bread you will sell on Wednesday instead of saying we want to sell as much bread as possible on Wednesday. That's a really big difference in goal, but a lot of companies actually doing the first one today. They say we want to predict something instead of optimize something, and it's a complete different approach.
So you can predict very little bread and be right at that.
Exactly. You can say it's really easy actually. We will sell no bread and then you don't sell any bread. So
Yeah,
it's really easy. But and also you cement the current if you have a prediction system saying you will sell 10 breads on Wednesday, then you will buy 10 bread and you will sell 10 bread probably. So
yeah,
you will cement the current situation if you have that approach as well.
yeah. And this is like, in my view, now the one critical aspect, or I'm using critical two times here, but one critical actually aspect in management, in leaders, and also in people in our organizations today, it's critical thinking, because you could be very easily using these large language models and get some output, and then you would not know if it's true or not, or if you're not able to, like you say, if you don't have an expert, if you have no knowledge in the field, then you could be misled by that, because the I mean, it was before, but now it's even better. Like, or even more important, the quality of questions you ask give you the quality of answers. So if you're asking, how can I predict, then you're gonna predict, right? So
Yes, exactly.
what's your view on critical thinking, and like how leaders could actually, like, what should they maybe have in place, like some guardrails, so they are not just full, or like just trusting fully, like launch LLMs.
Yeah. So my take is that it's really interesting that we believe so much of what comes out from LLMs, because if you ask most people, do you believe everything on the internet? They would say no. But then we believe a system that is trained on all that data that we don't trust in. So, but uh, of course, I mean, I use LLMs all the time. So it's a great tool, but we need to use it exactly as we were using internet before. We were questioning all the information that we got. We were asking for quotation. We were asking for sources for everything before, and of course we should do that as well. So a really good way if you're even slightly um, curious about the information, just ask the LLM for a source. And of course, you have to click on that source because it's also lies about sources today sometimes. Even really, yeah, it's really good in lying. But it's also, of course, it has a lot of information. So use it, but exactly as you did before with the internet in whole.
And I'm not sure if it's good in lying. I'm not sure if the goal of LLMs is lying. It's actually pleasing the user. I think that's, and this is actually, and OpenAI at one point have rolled back, a model, or some models that were too people pleasing, meaning whatever you asked, the answer was yes. So if you're asking, is there proof or is there evidence that this is true, and they will find something that says it's true. But so you have to be more aware of training your models to actually be also critical, and not only say yes to whatever request you have. And that was also true for googling. If you go and google something, if you say, does does business coaching help, or it's business coaching bad for me, and you're going to probably get yes to both of those questions, or some people saying yes to both of those questions. So yeah, I think critical thinking becomes even more important for everyone in our organization, especially for leaders, to be able to make sense of the data. An example that I saw recently is that someone was showing a chart of the birth rate, from the World Health Organization, that they were going down, and then at one point it was like this inflection point and goes up, and they say the prediction for 2030 or 20, maybe it was 2050, I don't know, it was like it's going up. And then, but there is no policy, there is no data point, there is nothing that predicts, yes, in 2045 we're going to do something. So these are the policy in place that will shift that, and you will have these inflection points. There is no data, there is no proof that anything different is done than what we do today to actually have that inflection point. But that's official data from World Health Organization, and you could say, well, that's a trustworthy source. So someone could look at that, and language model will take that and say, oh, WHO says that, and you say, oh, WHO, okay, perfect. But there is no basis behind that.
Exactly. Yeah.
We
Yeah,
have a
and I think that, yeah, sorry.
No, I was just thinking that we only have a couple of more minutes. So I was thinking if we can answer some questions. So we see a question. Do you see that on the screen from Vedran? Do you have
Yeah,
something?
I see. Yeah, and I think that's a really, really important question about bias in AI and ML. I think, and this is from problem to problem. I would say that some problems there's really, really important to find biases. Like if you do system to determine CVs, that's really important to determine all the bias. And when you do an AI or ML system, there's a technique called explainable AI, and making the ML model or the statistical model or the model in the whole more transparent and more explainable. The trade-offs there is often that it becomes a little less. It, it's not that the result will not be as good as a black box. That's normally the case. It's not always, but it's normally the case. Of course, if you can work with pure statistics, then you can also more easy find the bias. But if you have to work with more hardcore ML, then you can work with something called explainable AI. I won't go deep into that technique, but uh, I absolutely think it's sometimes and most often it's actually good to have the explanation, because not only the bias will be taken care of, but also your understanding on why things are like they are, and that's also really important to be able to change things. So, taking a step back, focusing on understanding your situation and why things are like they are, makes the next step, prediction, much more easy, and especially the change step or the preventive step where you are going to change stuff. So the most important part is absolutely to take a step back and understand what you're doing and why things are like they are.
And that might also mean training your model to be aware of the biases, or like, because if you specifically point out that we know we're in this industry and we know we primarily work with this, you know, target group, and we may be biased because I'm sitting here in Sweden, right? And I may be biased, and I'm trying now to sell something in Romania, and I might be biased because I think, well, everyone cares about the environment, don't they? Well, I don't know. Maybe not everyone in Romania. So uh, the reason, or the fact that they are asking the questions, how should we avoid biases? It tells us there are some biases that they are aware that they might be suffering from, and so it's the same approach as you would train your people in be aware of their, let's say, diversity and inclusion biases. You would also train maybe your LLMs to be aware of the biases, right?
Exactly like that. And also, but if it's really really important, then you should you should build like protection system around your model as well, to actually measure statistically, are this model um, uh, biased against anything that I am aware of it could be. So you can even measure the output over time to see if it's biased or not. So it's, but bias is really 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 hard problem, and it's not like you don't, there's no like silver bullet for that problem. It's really hard work, and measuring over time, and thinking a lot. um, so yeah, I saw that Carl here. He asked if I believe multi-agent system where agents can critique and create outputs, well, and can help reduce these problems. Uh, I think to have agents that critique and create outputs is really important in multi-agent systems. I personally don't believe multi-agent systems will be the solution for the bias problem, but I think when you work with multi-agent systems, if you don't have a critique and create system built in, the bias will escalate enormously. It's like the whispering game. I don't know if it's called that in English, but when you stand in line, and the first person whispers something to the next, the next, the next, the next, and that's actually how agent system works today. So if agent do something, really a small error, that will escalate through the system, and it will be completely different in the end. I think it's good to have that in an agent system. I don't believe that agent system will be the solution for the wrongs today.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Well, it makes a lot of sense. I don't know how that is called, but it was like the wireless phone. When we didn't have the phones were wired, we called this game like the wireless phone, and someone was whisper something, and then you would kind of use this, mouth to mouth, translation, and then you will have the last person say what you think the first person said, and you can see it's completely different things, because as you say, tiny deviation, multiplied by the number of steps, and the agents in the chain could lead to a, big deviation.
Exactly.
All right. Well, it was great having you, Fredrik. Thank you for taking the time. If you are in Gothenburg, we will love for you to join us up Live to Lead. Fredrik is going to be on our panel. We're going to discuss, these things. What it's important for leaders to think about AI, not to jump on this bandwagon right now and then put AI and LLMs everywhere in the organization, to be a little bit more strategic, to be value driven, not AI driven. And so if you're in Gothenburg, we would love for you to join us. If you have any questions or anything that you would want to discuss with Fredrik, or need some help from his expert team, feel free to reach out on LinkedIn. He's quite active on LinkedIn. You're going to find him in there. And thank you so much for tuning in today. It was a pleasure to be with you. Thank you, Fredrik, for taking the time.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.
Thank you.